我们季后赛可能会打 WE 的话，第4打第3的话，可能会我们有1-0领先嘛，但这样的话，我觉得也有可能会让我们太放松吧，所以我们自己还是要把这1-0想成还是0-0开局的吧。所以打他们的话，每条线的话，他们个人实力也很好嘛，然后我们去年也跟他们打过很多，现在状态的话，他们也在提升嘛，所以打他们的话，应该也是蛮不好打的吧。
And that was Ming definitely saying, hey, we've got to come into this set imagining that we're 0-0 with WE. Game 1, that's exactly what we saw. They did not take any chances, any aggression, any cheese, any chance for WE to try to get back into it. And while the style was a bit uncommon for them, it ended up working out.
Yeah, but just by the skin of their teeth, and more so off of the back of colossal mistakes from Team WE. Yes, Team WE have kind of been wounded and are limping into playoffs, you know, just barely scraping in, but we definitely expect better team coordination from WE than what we saw in game number 1. Just to echo the analyst desk, that wave management and that timing between the Mega Gnar and the rest of the sieging squad was pretty atrocious. They definitely need to tighten it up if we're going to go anywhere near 5 games this series.
Especially if they need to try to bring down RNG, who are looking to be in top form. It was a slow, measured pace from them in game 1, and while the eyes of WE and their coach might be downtrodden as they make their way on stage, look at RNG. Their eyes are forward. They are looking at this next match. They are looking at their opponent as merely one more step between them and the inevitable LPL title that Uzi desires so greatly.
I would like to see some mix-up from RNG, though, not just in their player substitution, because it is Let Me that's coming in over Zatai, but also in their compositions and how they're going to execute the map. Again, if this is your first time tuning into the LPL, that was not indicative of RNG. Personally, I have them as the true contenders to Invictus Gaming if they make it that deep into their playoff run, and it's based around their very quick tempo, heavy skirmish, 1-3-1 style. Not this 57-minute sleeping behind the wheel looking for the coin flip.
55 minutes, to be fair, but MLXG will still be staying in for this game, and we already talked about a bit of a style mismatch between Magic and MLXG. While the Gragas didn't have a huge impact in that game 1, he's still the kind of guy who wants to skirmish and fight the enemy jungler, which Magic has struggled with over the past few weeks.
It's 8.6. When I saw that MLXG was on the starting roster, I was like, I'm going to get some Nocturne.
Yeah.
I've prepared all of my notes. I'm very excited for the Leona Nocturne RNG composition, and instead I get Gragas. And I understand, you know, it makes sense from a coaching perspective that it denies the dive potential, that it's able to reset those team fights to try to isolate a lot of the compositions that Team WE like to play. Please don't play Gragas yet.
Especially when you've got so many strong solo carries on your team. You can set them up to win with just a little bit more crowd control instead of repositioning with that cask, but we'll see what it's going to be in this next draft, because RNG with side selection in this game 2 have selected red side. So again, perhaps saving that counter pick for Xiaohu, knowing that Xie is the guy that you have to really worry about from WE if there's anyone.
I mean, red side dominated the global playoff scene, especially in the European LCS, so shouldn't be too different here in the LPL. Just the ability to establish strong lanes by utilizing the counter pick on both secondary ban phase and initial ban phase is too powerful, especially for a team like RNG who have so many strong laners.
Well, we've entered now into that pick and ban. We'll see what those counter picks are going to be, because WE looks like this time they're not getting that Rakan that they prioritized so early for Celestial in that game 1. So already we're going to have to see something different from WE, and it's the I was about to say Zatai ban, the Swain ban away from Let Me and Xiaohu.
Yep, shared champion pool. Again, the more specific differences between Let Me and Zatai really come down to play style and less about champion gates. Kai'Sa again.
Again, the Kai'Sa ban.
I mean, it makes sense. I don't blame them. I agree. She's very powerful. Should be noted that we're on patch 8.6, and this is hot-fixed Kai'Sa.
Yes. 63 base attack damage and the increased mana cost on Acacian Rain, but still just as high ratios as ever. The panicked expression on Frosk's face when she saw the Kog'Maw hover. Instead, it's actually the Tahm Kench picked up right away for Team WE, so opening up the possibility for perhaps another late game carry like Varus or Kog'Maw.
I mean, you might as well flash the Kog'Maw. This sounds like this is going to be a Galio Kench, Jarvan hyper carry combo coming out of Team WE, one of their most practiced compositions. Said in interviews earlier that they were hoping to bring more compositions, more styles to this match against Royal Never Give Up.
Well, Karma is now the first pick for RNG. That can be flexed between both Xiaohu and Ming. They both played it, but...
It's because it's a read on Team WE. So if they see the Ken, she saw the flash of Kog'Maw, you know what Team WE like to play. Karma actually has a really decent matchup into Galio, and you're also taking away one of those other versatile options for running a hyper carry composition. And there's the Trundle, so it's again saying, if you pick the Jarvan, I am going to punish you.
Already RNG trying to put dampers on WE's desired team composition. We'll see how WE change up, seeing these two. Azir is currently the hover by Magic, but as the timer runs out, it's actually going to be locked in. Xie saying, let me carry, let me bear the burden of my team. And Caitlyn will be locked in for Mystic as well.
Caitlyn, Uzi, as he is synonymous with Caitlyn.
Yeah.
Uzi and Magic, Mystic, wow, cannot read today. Mystic and Uzi have the highest win rate on Caitlyn. Got there. We eventually landed there.
That's it.
And the average for the split is around 50%. That makes sense for most champions when you spread out their win rate. But for Uzi and Mystic in particular, it is over 70% for both of them.
Spectacular win rates on the champions. Of course, that means Uzi well prepared to play into that matchup. He takes Varus to look across from that champion of the Guinsoo's power spike, still just as strong as ever.
And yes, Varus does usually get the better of the matchup here. Caitlyn needs to extend more for auto attacks to meet the trade, whereas Varus is just going to spell fling, so he can very quickly out-trade her and then disengage. He can also compete with a lot of her wave clear.
So the thing that's interesting about this phase right now is we still don't know where the karma is going between Xiaohu and Ming, whereas Team WE, it's very clear who's still open. Magic and 957. It seems as though WE are going to try to limit down Ming a little bit more, perhaps looking to exploit that bottom lane, exploit Uzi, of all people.
I also do expect that it is going to be Xiaohu taking the karma in the mid lane more so than Ming, so I actually really agree with Team WE trying to whittle away the hard engaged champions from the bot side. I'd like to see them pay respect to something like an Alistar.
That does mean that top lane has yet to be picked by both top laners, so Gangplank banned away from 957. He's still got that Gnar open. And for the final ban of Team WE, what could be the last ban of the 2018 LPL spring season against RNG. How do they try to balance this out?
Before we focus fire into Team WE's last ban, which is going to be the Scion, I do want to focus on RNG's ban, taking away the Camille. 957 has this reputation that he sometimes picks up champions in scrims and suddenly they're just perma-banned competitively, even though you never get to see them on stage. It happened with his Kled. He finally got the Kled at MSI, but before he made such a statement on the champion on that stage, he had never gotten to play it in the LPL, which is perma-banned away. We have seen his Camille, and it's been pretty average, very hit and miss, and so I think it's very interesting that RNG are extending these bans like Camille towards 957, unless he's decided to pick it back up in scrims and has changed opinions on that.
We'll see if we get the chance to see that Camille later on. We'll reevaluate the series, but Frost, we've got an Ornn locked in for Let Me, so counterpick will go to 957, and that does mean the final pick for WE will be their jungle to round out their composition, as that was pared down slightly with that Camille being taken away if Magic were so inclined to play the champion, but it's actually with Smiles on Mystic and Celestial that they lock in what could be their last champion. Sejuani again, the hover.
I mean, she makes the most sense here. You're looking at a Trundle. It's never going to be a great time for the jungle. Trundle is exceptionally good at dueling and dealing with most junglers, but at least with Sejuani, you have the utility that you can fall back on. You still have heavy skirmish potential, and especially in 2v2s, depending on how the CC layers, you should win.
Yeah, and we've already seen Magic in that game one keeping pace with MLXG. They butted heads very early on for jungle control, and it did dissolve without any early kills. This time it could be a bit more exciting with the likes of that Trundle, as Zoe going to be locked in for Xiaohu. So this is something a bit different from RNG in this game too.
You called it, Dom. The Karma did flex down into the support position. Now, Zoe, of course, has gotten changes about 2 patches ago. She hasn't been brought back into the echelon of top tier where she was earlier on in the split, but we do have a lot of Zoe players that are running around the LPL. She crops up more here than she does globally, and Xiaohu definitely fits into that wheelhouse. Also, one of the few champions that can outrange the Azir. I know that Korea has experimented with either the Xerath or the Vel'Koz, you know, these other long-range options into a champion like Azir, but in the LPL, we like our assassins. We have a beautiful relationship with
burst.
them.
Yeah.
So Zoe fits.
It certainly does. Coaches now shake hands as they make their way backstage, and WE, they might have suffered a very painful defeat in that game 1. From what we could see of the player cams, they actually had some smiles. Xie with a bit of a cheeky grin, Mystic also showing some teeth as well. So WE don't look entirely defeated and out of this series just yet. They're going to need this momentum going against an aggressive RNG. Zoe for Xiaohu in the mid lane. Ornn going to be taken by Let Me. That enables so many different engage possibilities for RNG in that mid game. Will WE be able to compete with RNG in this game 3, or will we find ourselves at the end of a 2-0 victory for RNG?
Could have a very quick day, possibly, but game number 1 was quite long. RNG have drafted up, again, another 5v5 composition, so still not going towards their signature style, still showing a new face on day 1 of playoffs.
And again, the Mad Dog across from his rival, the sleepy Korean Uzi versus Mystic. The best AD carry in the league, hands down, against the only person who has really given him trouble over these past few years. And while Mystic seems to be in form in this series, can he match Uzi as WE load onto the Rift for what could be their last game of 2018 LPL Spring?
And we have an Infernal Drake to kick it all off. So Team WE's competition. You've seen this a million times in League of Legends. You know exactly what's about to come out of my mouth. It is level 6. It is team fight. The potential between Kench, Shen, and Sejuani, once they have those ultimates to find and create massive chaos and massive explosions over this map, is very high. And that's the big window that we're going to be looking at for WE. RNG on the other side, they have the Trundle. So how much damage can MLXG cause this Sejuani to delay that or to offset them?
We certainly will see, as MLXG already seems to be prepped for an invade. There are question mark pings. Xie will spot this. So this is a red buff steal, as Magic is starting out on that top side of the map. He's already getting a leash from 957.
Yeah, and should be noted that Xiaohu stepped up. He placed a ward onto his own Raptor ramp, so if Magic decides to immediately run to MLXG's red, he should be spotted.
MLXG now steps up to the Raptor camp. Looks like he's just going to do a full swapped clear. Keep Magic on that top half of the map and allow Uzi and Ming to try to control the bottom.
And now you're splitting and creating a strong side of the map. And like you said, it's about the bottom lane. Yes, Uzi and Ming are delayed into the lane, but it's still a Varus Karma, one of the most obnoxious 2v2 lanes to ever face across.
Early laning phase shouldn't be too exciting down here unless there's any major mistakes or challenges. But we'll see how this plays out as Celestial happily trades with Ming and the wave pushes in. Already you can see Uzi and Ming taking control over those minions.
And Celestial and Mystic unfortunately just have to take this one because, again, the map has been split. It automatically is going to give priority to Uzi and Ming, knowing that their jungler is not going to be anywhere around this side of the map. I do want to quickly touch, though, on Ignite. It doesn't seem big. Unsealed Spellbook means that you have the Ignite on 8.6. The Ignite base damage has actually been adjusted. It's gone up. And the Heal Summoner spell cooldown has also increased. So trying to give more power to all it engages doesn't mean so much for a Caitlyn or a Kench, but for the things like the Alistars that we're still seeing with Unsealed Spellbook in the LPL occasionally, does mean a lot. And over the course of this series, we have a lot of all-in, playmaking-oriented supports, and I want to see how those 8.6 changes can add a different dynamic to the bot lane.
We'll definitely keep tabs on that. Already a lot of movement across the map as Magic will go for a secondary invade to take the red buff away from MLXG, who did already secure the other. As Xiaohu happily clears out this wave in the mid lane to match with Xie. And Let Me even defending the Krugs on the top half of the map. MLXG with his second invade has already taken Raptors and is controlling the Krugs, so we're starting to see a bit of a tempo lead for MLXG.
And how this tempo lead will overtake the rest of the map is that Caitlyn is still a 3-item 80 carry power spike, and Varus is still the 2 with the new Rage Blade on 8.6. By denying the Caitlyn creating the strong side of the map for RNG, it means that she's unable to kind of bypass that power trough that she would have in the mid game by snowballing objectives. Because what Caitlyn comps like to do is their fast push compositions. They take the tower immediately, they start snowballing, rotating around the map, and then really bypass any weak zone for Caitlyn because she gets all that supplement gold from the towers. So by doing this, it's just delaying Caitlyn's power trough, and it means that they will be forced to play through it, and Uzi is going to be infinitely stronger. So this is the window of power that RNG are creating from minute 1.
Already RNG setting the pace in this game 3. They let WE run the clock in game 1, play their own game style and drag it out as long as they like. But now in game 3, it's RNG who are saying, no, this time you will see what happens when we set the pace, when we set the tempo. Will Mystic be able to keep up? Already Celestial is trying to save him from this harass down here. And look at the CS difference, 9 full minions ahead.
And the biggest damage is the fact that he doesn't have his pot. Yes, he's sitting on the Doran's Blade. He knew it was going to be rough, but eventually he's going to have to take it back and lose a lot of gold here. Uzi is ranked #1 in first tower participation, so it looks like RNG are back to their old tricks and are going to break this.
Even Celestial looking for the recall. Piercing arrow might be ready for Uzi as the wave crashes in. There's no support, and immediately teleport from Celestial to get himself back onto the map. This is just such a difficult situation. You saw the stats for Xie on that Azir. Well, certainly he's 4-1 with a 20 KDA, but he's going to need to drag the game out quite a bit if he hopes to match Uzi's current power spike.
But naturally, taking a teleport like this means that he doesn't have access to either a defensive or an offensive secondary summoner, which is why Magic is having to respond. Not only because they're continued to be chipped away, but now having the TP, if there is an all-in, if there is a 2v2 or a 3v3, Magic and Celestial already have to cede that pressure.
And still the wave pushed with Magic. They know that he's missing, which gives more time for MLXG to maneuver around the map. Already 200 gold ahead, another 200 gold lead for Uzi, and then another close to 200 gold lead for Xiaohu. So we're already starting to see RNG pick up some advantages. The recall has been completed as the cannon wave crashes.
And look at how important the pots are. Hold on.
Xiaohu.
There was a ghost
using
pot.
That, yeah, using
I got excited. It was Zoe. I was
Zoe.
like, hear the spell proc.
Smite will allow Magic to take his Raptors.
But back to Mystic. The fact that he had enough gold to look for the BF sword, but opts into the boots because A, he's in a heavy poke lane. He wants to be able to sidestep that. The attack speed is still a great stat for her anyway, but it's valuing the pots. He needs to have health potions to come back into that lane to just deal with the Varus and Karma. And like we said, early Infernal Dragon, they split the side of the map, they create strong side, bot side. RNG, Varus, and Karma force WE's bot lane out and give them the free early access to Infernal 6 minutes in.
Yeah, and WE seem to have nothing they can do to deal with it. Magic was spotted elsewhere on the map at that Raptor camp, makes his way over to finally control his own juggle, and RNG happily just take the Infernal, knowing that he's nowhere to be found. The next dragon, as you just so happily emoted, is another Infernal. Everything is coming up RNG in this game too.
Are you feeling 3-0? Because the thing is that Dragon's going to spawn at 12 minutes in, and Uzi is going to be massive with the initial power spike, and Mystic is not going to be. So they need to stall out and make sure that RNG don't have, free access to walk up and take it on spawn again, which means Magic needs to send help here. Now, good news, he's level 5, so they are creeping closer to that big level 6 explosion that you should see from Team WE's composition, but they need to make it count.
So it is going to be Magic who enables WE to stall out after that second Infernal Dragon spawns.
Has to be. Because if they get back-to-back Infernals this early on, and then Varus gets his power spike, they're done.
And that's where we look at the composition for RNG, Trundle and Zoe. If ever there's a way to keep a Sejuani out of the lane, Sleepy Trouble Bubble and Pillar of Filth. If Xiaohu can control that mid lane, that becomes even scarier, and still MLXG is tracking the Sejuani around the map. He's got Smite, level 6, and red buff denied.
Ah, that's gotta hurt. Magic didn't even try to fight for the Smite. And now Trundle has more access, complete control of the backside of the Dragon Pit, and is going to continue to just sit in this top brush. And again, Celestial has Teleport. He doesn't have an Exhaust, he doesn't have an Ignite, so even in this 3v3, especially with Sejuani only being level 5 and Trundle being level 6, there's nothing that they can do. They just have to watch themselves lose this lane.
Now level 6 was just picked up by Magic as he ticked over on those Krugs. But MLXG is still just sitting there. He's waiting for Mystic to take one step too far. Chains of Corruption, the target's Celestial. He shields up. Engage from Magic, but he's outside of the turret range. That's the Pillar of Ice. Celestial goes in, but that's the Shen. Stand United. Let Me even joins. Call of the Forge God. The target's Mystic. He flashes, but saved by Celestial. Teleport from Xiaohu. He's got Flash and Paddle Star. He's getting there late.
There is no reason for RNG to force this. Xie is also on the way with the Azir. RNG, you've already won the war. Take the tower.
And that seems to be what they're doing. As 5, they're pushing onto it. Xie is there. He's got some wave clear. Sleepy Trouble Bubble as Magic in the front, separated from his team. Xiaohu goes in for some poke while Uzi continues to fire across onto the turret. Let me leads the charge. Just a Spell Thieves, ladies and gentlemen. Hold your horses. First brick split amongst all 5 members of RNG.
And now we can start unlocking these lanes, rotating them around. Credit to Let Me, a very early teleport to make sure that he immediately matched Shin's Stand United.
And look at those gank stats for MLXG. 35% of the time he ganks bottom, 33% of the time he ganks mid, leaving a remaining 30-ish% to that top half of the map in the enemy jungle. But still, like you said, the map has now been opened up. There's 3 full minutes before that Infernal Dragon spawns, allowing Uzi to farm top, finish that Guinsoo's before he heads bottom.
And the big problem is that Team WE are still just going to lane assign themselves into losing matchups. You know, Mystic and Celestial are going to walk up here, and they're going to be in the exact same position that they were on the bottom side. So if the lanes remain stagnant like this, if Magic is unable to impact either side lane or get things snowballing, we're going to continue to see them passively lose the game.
There's nothing that WE can do to try to turn it around if they continue to be tracked down like this. Already, RNG are setting up aggressive vision on this side of the map.
Actually, I will say this. Because of where Uzi is in his breakpoint, I'm normally used to seeing Uzi get the...
Finish Guinsoo's at this point?
Exactly. That there's actually a small window where Caitlyn's going to be okay for these trades just because she kind of has an even back with completed boots as well as pickaxe. Because the Rage Blade's itemization is still so variety bucket.
But Ming is going to try to see to that as he looks for some extra damage. Still, they're fighting over vision, fighting over the opportunity to harass each other. And we painted this matchup as Uzi versus Mystic to be the defining factors of the WE RNG head-to-head clash. But that's not the case. It's the collective teams rallying behind their carries, not playing exclusively around them instead. Though MLXG might be looking for it. Xiaohu doing something similar as he's just firing shots as Xie runs for cover.
I swear that Sleepy Trouble Bubble went right through, right between his eyes.
It was the cape. It went underneath the cape.
Doesn't have that that booty?
Tragically, no, birds do not have a lot of booties, though I'm sure Becky would have something to say about that.
I was going to say, I've seen that sweetie.
No peacocks in this game. It's the sunbird instead from Xie.
The golden chicken.
That's the one.
Yep.
But now 60 seconds for that Infernal Dragon. Guinsoo's picked up, and Uzi's actually heading up towards that top half of the map along with Ming. We'll see if they redirect down there, or if RNG want to continue the laning phase.
And here's the interesting thing is that he's heading back up topside when the Infernal Dragon is spawning in 50 seconds. So I believe that means they are going to try to force this tower as opposed to prioritizing that second dragon, even though they do have quite an item power spike in their hands. Also would give them access into the Rift Herald, which against an Azir as well as a Sejuani, it's almost mandatory to break that mid tower, and that's where the massive stall will come in from Team WE. So many times LPL teams will be unable to snowball games because of their inability to crack mid.
Especially if Mystic is on that Caitlyn and is allowed to inevitably get gold. Ooh, the turnaround. Oh, but he missed it. Xie, you know how portal jump works. You've played Zoe. You can't get away with that. Xiaohu takes a favorable trade. Even Magic goes in as Celestial still trades with Ming.
You can see it on Xie's face. He knew where he messed up, so it's fine. We'll let it go.
Look at how that frees up MLXG on the bottom half. Let Me is pushing into the tier 2. MLXG is there to support him, stealing away the Krug, setting up deep vision. Infernal Dragon is up off the back of this, and that Sleepy Trouble Bubble just hit. Ooh, big hit. Not enough, though. The Paddle Star is turning into a Paddle Sun. Xie has to get out.
Because Xie doesn't have access to Flash, doesn't have access to his ultimate, and now has lost so much of his health, it may mean that RNG get to break mid-tower without even needing the Rift Herald there. So massively misplayed on an individual point from Xie to put his team in this type of situation.
What's it going to be, though? RNG, they've taken that Infernal Dragon. There are pings, or sorry, the red buff. Now there are pings onto the Infernal Dragon for MLXG.
Trundle can just do it by himself at this point, and so RNG are going to continue to lock down the lanes. There's a massive wave so they can see any sort of information as well as great vision line on the entrance of Magic's jungle, MLXG is completely free to do this and leave his lanes isolated so they continue to win.
Oh, they're looking for a fight, and Magic completely misses. He's snared as 957 joins the fight. Uzi already flashed. Xie is free firing, but he has no flash to catch him. The slow, and that's Uzi walking away. Ming overextends, flashing through the jungle, saving private support for RNG. Inevitably, this is going to be first blood.
Look at Ornn.
He's hovering that teleport. Ming is actually still running for this. He's going to go through 2 turrets. 957 will be the one who heads him off, but first blood goes to Mystic.
So again, a very delayed first blood, 13 minutes before it falls down. And what I was saying is that Ornn was left alone with this tower, and even though it is Ornn, he's not the fastest split pusher, he was able to get pretty significant chip damage on that structure.
And the Infernal Dragon was taken by RNG during all of that.
One job, guys.
All it needs to be is one. Still, Magic, he did try to open up the map. He seems to have had a bead on what MLXG was doing, didn't try to contest his red buff or his Krugs, instead forced a fight with Celestial. And these are the 2 rookies for WE, trying to open up the game back for their veterans to allow them to carry, but just wasn't enough with that first gank, even though it did yield them a kill.
And then likewise, Xie being punished for missing his flash ultimate, then not having the key spells to try to punish Uzi's positioning. The fact that Uzi got to power walk out of that situation.
Yeah. Walk, don't run to the nearest exit in case of emergency. Xiaohu, along with MLXG, this could be the siege that breaks down that Tier 1 top finally.
Mid tower should be their priority. I think MLXG is actually just here to make sure that there's not an immediate collapse, so create a safety net for his team if he has to collapse to them, but more importantly, place down this vision. Xiaohu has been so consistent with landing these long-range spells and this damage on Azir here.
Like that one. Even the Proto Belt, Xie fresh out of base, and now he's below half health healing up.
Which means that even though Azir has the blue buff and this tower shouldn't be broken, it will fall.
He's still hovering in that mid lane, perhaps thinking that he might be able to dodge the next one, but that very well could be the death of him, especially if Let Me. What's he building? He's got the Frozen Heart. Finishes off Merc Treads to get there even faster, though he does take some time. Magic, misses the Glacial Storm. Xiaohu walking it off. That's going to be the Emperor's Divide, putting him on the wrong side. He's retreating. Ace in the hole is not enough. Saved by Ming's Airy to keep him alive.
That was so good. Oh my god.
And RNG are just denying WE everything.
Oh boy, Xiaohu, it has been so long. We have not gotten to see him play like that in such a long time. There's a reason why we say that Xie is the second best mid laner in the LPL right now, but Xie is just looking all out of sorts, completely outclassed by Xiaohu. So many sidesteps, wastes and absorbs so much attention from Team WE.
And now the weight of an entire season is on top of Xie, Mystic, and 957, the veterans of WE, and they're about to be dove. The wave is cleared, and MLXG just turns right back around. That's going to be 957 joining the fight. He doesn't have Stand United just yet. Lands the Shadow Dash, and Uzi goes down. Still no flash, as MLXG from behind has to flash the trap, trying to protect his carry. Might have been a bit overzealous from RNG to defend, but they will break the Tier 1.
Yeah, RNG were just committing to the wrong side of the map. As soon as that TP came through, they needed to disengage, and now caught again.
Yeah, Shadow Dash to deny it. Look who's on the way. Xiaohu is trying to catch up. As he races to the top half. Sleepy Trouble Bubble. He actually caught Mystic there. Paddle Star still hits the AoE. That's the lollipopping effect, ladies and gentlemen. That massive AoE.
Bend it like Beckham over here. Zoe in the mid lane. Again, RNG, there's no reason for them to be this far forward. So despite the fact that they are playing a relatively clean game number 2, you can still see where they're making some of these key errors. This is now twice that they've been caught with their pants down, especially overextended the top lane. You're going to get the free mid lane tower. All you need to hunker down is play safe. Allow your team to snowball.
So many times we've seen Uzi focus so much on the play in front of him instead of what's going on around, which leads to ganks, which led to the RNG EDG Game 5 in the LPL Summer Split last year. This time it yields a kill for WE, but still RNG seem to be playing around that as they break down all of the outer turrets 18 minutes in.
Unfortunately, oh no, MLXG did manage to pick up Rift Child. I was going to say, unfortunately, we didn't get the Rift Child, but it's MLXG. I should have known. He's obsessed with that buff. He's the #1 jungler in taking it, has access to Rift Child, and if they could use it bottom or mid, that would be best case scenario.
Red buff stolen away again from Magic as MLXG is just flexing on him here. There's still a third of the duration on that Rift Herald buff, and with 3 members mid, a Zoe top against 957, who's now forced to deal with it.
And we finally have it, the 1-3-1 that we've been talking about. Xiaohu on an assassin who has decent mobility in one lane. Let me teleport. He's just going to be that unmovable brick wall in the other lane, and then the Karma Trundle combo. It is going to be so difficult to attempt to engage or move forward onto Trundle and Karma between Pillar and the speed up.
Now we do see a ward being cleared out by RNG. Xiaohu still fighting over vision, trying to bait WE into this. Infinity Edge has been finished by Mystic. He's also got his boots too. So we will get some attack speed in this long fight, but can he keep up with Uzi's damage? Can he keep up with Xiaohu's? They just decide to give it up instead. Even the Sun turret in the mid lane broken down as a result of this, and blue buff taken by Xiaohu. WE are bleeding out against RNG.
And it's going to remain this way for a very long time. Team WE's game plan, like you were saying, can Mystic keep up with Uzi? It's going to be a long time before he's able to do that. Uzi now has completed his Wit's End, has his Rage Blade available, and the Baron's going to be spawning soon. We say this all the time, it's the demanding meta in the LPL. The Kog'Maws, the Varus, you grab this 2-item power spike, and then you immediately run towards the Baron, and you dare the other team to try to stop you because they believe that they're strong enough to take the 5v5.
Will RNG be able to play around that? Rift Herald now used in that mid lane.
The
Mystic
Deep Herald.
still clearing a wave up top. It was about to time out in MLXG's pocket, but he uses it, and they will clear out the wave as well. They're actually stalling it on the minions, giving WE time to set up a defense. What does this open up for? Xiaohu is actually racing down the mid lane. He's got Ghost, and he's used it to try and catch up. This has turned into a siege, but WE, they've built the fortifications. Can they hold their ground? Celestial takes the hit. That's Call of the Forge God. Knockup will still be able to collide with Mystic. He's solo. Chains of Corruption doesn't catch, but the tier 2 is just brute forced by RNG.
And the fact that no response comes in from Team WE, they didn't attempt to look for a flank, and it's because Xiaohu is consistently hitting these key spells. He finds the CC, he finds the massive damage on Mystic, and it just means that there's no option for Team WE.
And that's the tier 2 broken. Look at the vision control from RNG off the back of this. They know everything that's going on this side of the map. They're going to take the Ocean Dragon, and while 957 was able to split push and get the first turret for Team WE, that's just a poor pittance compared to what's going on. Oh man, you have got to be careful.
Team WE are effectively rolling over and dying in this series right now. I cannot believe some of the mistakes that they're making. The fact that a Deep Herald spawn is able to just be walked down mid lane and siege a proper tower.
And held on a minion wave. This is not the WE that went to Worlds 6 months ago.
And at some point, some trust needs to be extended to Team WE. They've shown case that if you give them nobodies, they will make them into somebodies. They've made Xie and Mystic and 957 household names, not just domestically in the LPL, but internationally. So there must be something to Magic and Celestial that I haven't seen yet, but I have to trust the organization. But this, they keep playing like this is not going to be their split. Possibly Worlds, but it is an uphill climb right now.
It certainly is. RNG, though, they've already got their eyes on MSI with the way they're playing in this series.
With the way Xiaohu in particular is playing as well.
Oh, yeah.
He,
returning to that World's form at what seems to be the drop of a hat the moment they get into playoffs.
Definitely slumped a bit over the course of the LPL. Has been ramping back up, but hasn't been the Xiaohu, the little tiger that we expect him to be. So nice to see him pull out the Zoe and just really flex on RNG. And you can't even see it displayed in his scoreline, but he has been the difference maker.
Controlling not only Xie, but also Mystic and Celestial. Even 957, anybody who finds themselves facing across from him in lane takes a few hits. And that's where it starts to get scary. The assassination, 957 over the wall, is going to retreat away from MLXG, but Letme is ready to catch up. Will he use that Call of the Forge God? Nope, just decides to farm it instead.
Doesn't have vision, knows that Tomkinch. He used his ultimate?
He did, yes. That was Celestial using the Abyssal Voyage.
Interesting.
But now they know that 957 is back in base, or at least holding that minion wave, I should say.
And the siege will continue. They don't even need to walk to Baron because Xiaohu has been...
How did he hit that?
So on
Celestial! He's going to be caught up. Chains of Corruption, they take Celestial instead. Good cleanse from Uzi, as he does already have a QSS. Even a flash. A Xiaohu lands another, but it's not enough. The heal from Mystic keeps Magic alive still, though. The Sun turret goes down, and RNG, they've got a wave prep bottom.
That is Celestial forced out of fight, trying to correct for Mystic's mistakes. Mystic has no health. Now Shin is left out to dry. No one is coming.
The continuation, subjugation, Ice Pillar, and Uzi firing down. Ming will steal the kill, but it hardly matters. Xiaohu over the wall. Don't you dare, Xiaohu. Tosses it to zone away instead, but that's another tier 2 gone. 5 turrets to 1, Frosk.
And they don't have the Sejuani ultimate, so they are fish in a barrel underneath this tower and have no response.
Keep doing this. Xiaohu.
Yes, you can't. There's nothing. What are they going to do? How can they stop him?
What is his hit rate on these spells? He has got WE down. He has got them read like a book. I know where Caitlyn is going to be. I know where Azir is going to be. I am going to poke them away, and we are going to take their turret.
And naturally, your only option when you face such a heavy poke composition as a Zoe, Karma, and Varus, and let's be real, it's just the Zoe, is you must engage before you lose the health. Unfortunately, because of how far behind they are on the clock, like 36k to 42k, Caitlyn's power spike versus Varus' power spike, they'd have to A, find the perfect engage, and then B, they're also not being proactive about it. It's the 2 new rookies, the Tom Kench and the Sejuani, that need to take the responsibility for it.
We saw them look for it. They hopped over the wall, but Magic missed the Glacial Storm, and Celestial overshot the Abyssal Voyage not once but twice. And Xiaohu, even so, to cover himself, should he make a mistake, has got the Banshee's Veil.
I like how they just spare Mystic. He's not worth it. We are here for the Baron.
You have to send a survivor back so that WE know not to take the fight with RNG. The tales. Just like the great defense at 300, someone has to tell the tale. And Mystic, while he might still have both eyes, he won't for long if RNG keep firing like this. Because 25 minutes in, Banner of Command has been picked up for 957, which should stall out Let Me a bit, but can they look for an opportunity? Can WE find something?
Well, you can see that 957 has been pulled from the bot side, so trying to find another flank play on Xiaohu.
That's the target. He's got no summoners. He's swept back by the edge of the Emperor's Divide, and they do indeed. They do find something. But Let Me with the knockup. He's teleported in. Mystic has joined. Uzi racing to catch up. MLXG walks away, and Uzi will escort him to safety. Meanwhile, Let Me flashing away from the rest of WE as RNG group.
An important factor is that it's not one of the new members that eventually takes the burden of Team WE and finds the engagement. It's the veteran from the top lane. 957 having to play the entire map to get Team WE to do anything.
Pillar of Ice used to try and zone away, but WE will break down that mid-tier 1. They're finally on the map. They're finally on the board. But they're still 5,000 gold down. Collapse from 3 different directions is what it takes to finally catch him.
I can imagine those calls. Xie saying, go, get him, 957, making such an early rotation to try to be there for his team so he doesn't have to use Stand United. You can very clearly see the fingerprints from 957 and Xie as they are puppeteering Celestial and Magic.
And that time it works out as they get a kill, but Baron's been up for 7 minutes. And RNG still have control over that side of the pit. You can see how dangerous it is to step forward for WE, especially now that Xiaohu is building toward a Rabadon.
Good news, though, is that we were talking early game about, RNG's game plan. This massive window where Uzi's going to be stronger than Mystic, where they can try to force fights. And yes, they've sieged a lot of the map. They've continued to snowball, but Team WE haven't lost the game and are now inching towards their breaking points. And this is what it's always going to be about. They need the 45, 55-minute game for the Azir and the Caitlyn to take over.
We do see Void Staff completed for Xie, so he should be able to get some damage onto Let Me and Xiaohu. Nearly 3 items on Mystic. He is almost there. But do they have the time to continue dragging it out? Xiaohu is just hunting, hounding for picks. Uzi will pick up a second Ocean. That gives even more sustain to the RNG roster.
Also means that the Elder is going to be that much more terrifying down the line.
4 Elders, yeah. Sorry, 4 Elemental Dragons. No 4 Elders just yet.
Please no.
And a Mountain will still spawn up next. So we're not seeing triple Infernal, triple Ocean. We're actually seeing a good spread out of this matchup as the RNG has worked out really well for RN. MLXG taking the Wolf Camp. Don't look at me like that.
No one would have known. I mean, people who know me
Yeah,
do, but
you had to look.
it's okay. I've gotten some magic puns in there.
I've heard.
I'm surprised. You're supposed to be the D&D guy. They have a wizard on their team. It's Celestial Magic and Mystic.
Look, the atmosphere is right, but you've got to wait for the right situation. From downtown, the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, looking for Xie, but not finding. Let Me doesn't have teleport. He's holding on bottom. WE are trying to clear some vision.
And if WE play this one close to the chest, what should happen is that Team WE won't be able to enter any of these choke points because Xiaohu has just been so on point with these Sleepy Trouble Bubbles, which means that, again, responsibility comes down to Celestial. He's the Tom Kench, and he's the primary access into RNG's bot line, or back line, around these choke points. So they need to have a very crucial Abyssal Voyage here if they're going to get anywhere near this pit.
And this is, again, where we contrast the new rookies for Team WE. Celestial and Mystic have played 30 games together on stage, 31 with the last game.
I have a feeling that they're just going to walk into a choke point, though, and someone's going to get blasted.
Yeah, very well could be. Banner of Command utilized bottom as 957 tries to group up with his team, but he's got a long trek to go. They're fighting over blue. Smite, I believe that was Magic who got it.
Looking for those windows where Zoe throws her cooldowns for a possible counter engagement. Watch Magic.
From over the wall. Magic is ready. Xie forced to dash out. WE slowed by the Pillar of Ice, but that's not going to stop them.
And that's something we haven't gotten to talk about is the combo between Trundle and Zoe and how much easier it is to land those Sleepy Trouble Bubbles and Qs when you have the Pillar of Ice there.
And look at that, following one up with another. Xiaohu starts to find damage. That's Call of the Forge God. They're stacked up. Celestial still eats the knockup. Spits Mystic out back. Celestial running. Mystic slowed and snared. Xiaohu chases. They're all grouped up, but RNG can't quite catch them. Xiaohu is the only one who can close the gap, but he doesn't find any kills. And RNG race to the Baron.
Losing a lot of health. Celestial is backing with Sejuani, however, has access to Abyssal Voyage, so it's going to be a little bit of a shorter path as they'll use that one to close distance, and the rest of Team WE just need to stall.
That's the Abyssal Voyage. They're all the way at the blue buff. 957 starts walking forward, but Baron down to 3,000 health. Here comes Magic. Frost Armor gets him into the pit. Baron picked up at 6 health. Xie goes low. Xiaohu nearly gets the kill, but it's a fight on two fronts. Uzi walking forward, firing wildly, just burns through WE's health, and an immediate near ace.
And you can see Coach Hart and Coach Kesman already celebrating backstage, almost a complete whitewash. And yes, Uzi picked up all of the kills and the damage there, but he did it flashing the Shen taunt.
And look at that. Karsa doesn't even need to be called into this series. As with the Baron, RNG are now 8,000 gold up. They have got a huge gold lead, and while the game hasn't been finished just yet, they have shown they can take the fights. They have shown they've got the picks, and WE, if they want to try to scale it out, it just became one heck of a mountain to climb.
And this is the thing, you're going to see a very clear difference between Team WE and RNG and how to close out a game. Take notes, WE, because RNG are one of the most devastating teams in the LPL. Once they acquire a Baron, their ability to close out is about 3 to 5 minutes.
This is that fight at that Baron. Mystic steps forward, but so does Uzi. And
again, that flash at the start of the fight to get Uzi back into position so he can walk forward and be confident to make those plays. Good layering of CC from his team. Beautiful pen for multiple Team WE members to be locked against that wall.
Let me with a 3-man knockup to just set up and serve the carries of WE on a golden platter to Uzi and Xiaohu.
And again, RNG are so devastating at closing out games because of their ability to coordinate waves crashing simultaneously, which is exactly what Team WE struggled with in game number 1 of this series. They were always mismatched on their Mega Gnar bar, and when the waves were crashing and sieging at multiple angles, RNG never have that problem, which is why Ryze is one of the key picks for them, the ability to use the dropship. It's not Ryze this time, it's Zoe, but watch how they set up these waves, watch how they siege.
Now the trap line has been placed by Mystic. He's able to zone RNG out just a bit, but as you said, the bottom wave is synced up and crashing at the exact same time. Now, it will be a bit of time for WE to get there. That's a Mystic eating a huge hit. Call of the Forge God. The target's Xie, not Mystic. He dashes back to safety, but with the 2 carries gone, WE lose the inhibitor. No hesitation from RNG.
and they've got multiple waves coming in. It wasn't just about mid and bottom, it was also about the top wave, which you can see is still building. It's going to be massive, it will crash. They'll have time for one wave to hit mid lane, take some damage here, and then rotate towards top if they want.
It's being built up. A big hit onto Magic. That Rabadon's Death Cap is doing absolutely massive damage. Another Sleepy Trouble Bubble. The distraction. Mystic's actually doing quite a bit with Xie. Lemmy and Uzi are forced to back off. Ming died. And still Xiaohu is hunting for picks. Abyssal Voyage. And Lemmy just flashes the wall. Nobody even went with Celestial. WE are falling apart at the seams.
Hold on though, Magic has ultimate, is actually slipping up underneath RNG.
Uzi hits the slow, but it's not enough. Teleport's ready from 957, but he can't get the flank from behind. Mountain Dragon spawns, and while it's not the full inhibitor take that RNG wanted, all 3 inhibitor turrets are broken, and Mountain Dragon is taken off the back.
And an uncharacteristic misplay. Look at the massive wave that Azir is now collecting on the top side. If RNG had played that cleaner, if they hadn't lost so much health to, I believe it was Xie's Azir that was doing all of that damage to them, then it would have been so much of a more devastating closeout as we take a look at it. So trap line. Yeah, it's Azir.
Xie gets his 3rd Sand Soldier, and they all just stack up happily for Xie.
Just
minor mistake, disrespecting.
It's not even a minor mistake.
Well, sure.
Because at this point, you're round 1 in playoffs. We want RNG to make a deep run into the playoffs. They are our semi-finalist teams. You know, kid gloves are coming off. I'm done with the minor mistake. That should have been a game end. And RNG, they have higher standards, and they've shown tape where they could have closed on a moment like that. But to make a mistake, to walk onto the Caitlyn traps, to just get blown up by Azir, that is not the RNG that's going to make a deep run.
Well, luckily, they've got a 2-game buffer in this series, so they can afford a bit of flexibility. But still, they have to close this out. The inhibitor turret is still standing. I was actually incorrect, but barely. Seems like it'll take 1-2 autos at most before that thing goes down from both Xiaohu or Uzi. And with Super Minions pushing bottom, keeping 957 occupied, RNG are free to play multiple waves.
Yeah, and why it's not a minor mistake is because of the momentum that they lose. Because you're still looking at a Caitlyn and a Azir, which are very difficult to siege into, so you almost need the Baron timer to make it worthwhile, unless Xiaohu starts hitting more of these, devastating chunks, which is possible, but in a perfect world.
MLXG leads the charge with Frozen Domain. Xiaohu keeping 3 people busy mid as the top inhibitor is broken. Pillar of Ice prevents WE from rotating in time, and though the wave is cleared out, Xiaohu is still chipping away at that turret.
One more empowered auto from his, what do they call it?
Spell Thief.
More sparkles?
Yes, more sparkles. Always more sparkles.
That's what really gets you. If you don't play Zoe and then you face one, you think that the damage is really going to come
from the Paddle Star?
Yeah, the Q, but it's also that empowered auto on the more sparkles when she uses her ultimate. That hurts.
And that's it. The turret is broken. The final line of defense is at the Nexus for WE. Their 2018 spring season has only 2 turrets. Well, all right, calm down, Xie. 2 turrets, real turrets left.
But again, the issue is that it stops here. It's still very difficult to siege in unless Xiaohu finds these hits, which I guess I should just give him the benefit of the doubt. He's actually just going to hit everyone.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop here. Team W are going to continue to bleed out.
He's got double Ocean, double Infernal. The Sun turret is broken. Now it's down to 2 turrets left for WE. And the final inhibitor standing is under siege. No trap line is able to be set up by Mystic.
Are they going to Horn and just try to end?
Oh,
no!
The Shadow Dash missed. That's Flash missing from 957. Uzi immediately steps up along with MLXG. Mystic eats the slow, and the split push is successful. They pull WE apart enough to break down that final inhib turret. Xiaohu lands the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. This is RNG. They've had enough of WE. They've had enough of this series. They forced the fight, and while they don't have the kills, they've got enough to force them back onto the fountain. The minion wave is cleared out by WE. And here it goes, down to the final Nexus turret. Xiaohu still just leaping forward time and again. What will stop RNG? Could it be an overextension? They cover Xiaohu as he steps back forward. Redemption to top themselves off. And you can see in the front, it's one tank versus another, but that's 2 dead. Uzi has got more than enough shred to burn through. And despite the constant regeneration, RNG still prove they've got more stats. The Nexus turrets are broken. And Mystic eats a Trouble Bubble and goes down. Solo kill Xiaohu. Uzi still alive. This is just RNG flexing on this point because they're taking the Nexus and they're taking the series. They are superior over Team WE.
just rolled over on top of them. Xiaohu, if he doesn't get the MVP, I would be shocked. That Zoe performance, the fact that they were able to siege into a Caitlyn Azir this late into the game without need for Baron. Yes, they timed their wave, so it was multiple points, splitting apart Team WE's composition. Yes, Team WE's engage responsibilities on Celestial Magic were on the rookies, so they didn't have the experience to find the correct gauge when needed. But Xiaohu found key targets time and time again, threaded the needle, bent it like Beckham, destroyed Team WE. And that's simply a miracle MVP performance that just changes the game. You look at a composition, doesn't matter.
This is the Xiaohu that we saw at Worlds. This is the little tiger with a big roar. And they get to take a bow in front of the hometown crowd here in Shanghai as RNG. You could see when they were shaking hands with WE, there were smiles down the line. Though this is the end of WE's run until the summer split, they've still got a lot that they can take away from this. We've already credited their organization with the ability to take talent and make it grow. But what happens, Indiana? What happens, FLICKR, if you already have 5 spectacular players?
Then you just need to prioritize your macro performance. There were still mistakes made from RNG. It was just that difference of a skill gap between Team WE and Royal Never Give Up to be punished on it. But waiting deeper in the bracket as RNG will now advance into quarterfinals are Snake Esports and Invictus Gaming. It's still one hell of a road to the finals.
The first test has been passed, and there are still 2 more to go for RNG before they return back to the finals. Can they continue this momentum as they rise forward? Because if they continue to have performances like this game too, I think the answer speaks for itself. 38-minute win, 13,000 gold, and look at the damage that Xiaohu did. Those are skill shots, FLICKR. Those are not point and click.
Showcasing why Zoe is still a favorite pick in the LPL. Like I said, we've got a lot of Zoe players running around. We didn't care about the nerfs. She disappeared for a little while, but about 2-3 patches ago, had some quality of life adjustments, and she's back at it again.
If that's all Xiaohu needs, then quality of life adjustment every single mid laner, and then let him just run rampant over whatever opponents that he has.
It's just, I'm frankly just a little bit disappointed in Team WE after this performance. You know, it was good for them to make the playoffs. Yes, they're playing from, you know, the back foot, not having access to Condi and Bin, having Celestial Magic, trying to groom up this talent, but there were a lot of errors that went unforced.
We do get the chance, though, to celebrate that we did see 2 rookies come in for WE, and in their first playoff game show a strong performance. Magic going head-to-head with MLXG. This is no small thing. MLXG is known for dominating his opponents.
And the question then is, do RNG continue with MLXG across from SOFM? Because that would be the next opponent, or is Karsa waiting in the wings?
Alrighty, looking forward as ever. Still, though, it's time for our analysts to break down what happened in that series.
Thanks, Simon. We're going to kick it off from what you guys were talking about right there. Because Zoe, that pick, you know, put someone to sleep, had a star go that way, come back and bang, just hit everyone on the desk. Because that's what Xiaohu was doing the entire time.
Back. Yes. He was very annoying. He was a nuisance. It's like Fish right now. I honestly don't know what else to tell you. I feel like the MVP performance is, if it doesn't go to him, I'm not just going to be shocked. I'd be upset. That's how well he played on the champion.
Yep. He was playing well. I want to talk about the setup a little bit more just because of the fact that bottom lane was struggle street for WE. It felt so hard for them just because the matchup was going to be the Karma and the Varus. And we've been seeing a lot of support, or at least mage supports, coming out of Ming. This is the first time we get to see it in the playoffs, of course. And I don't know how they were able to get out of it. I mean, I felt like you saw the boots, secondary boots pick up, of course.
Pickaxe.
The pickaxe after that. He was on struggle street.
Yeah, and I do think most of this does actually reflect through the draft and the changes from RNG. Because I feel like what was missing in game 1, perhaps even a reason they should have lost that first game, is here in the second game. It exists and it's actually a prevalent feature. They had a controlling bottom lane. They had a pushing 2v2 down there. The Karma was an early rotation, so they could have flexed it to mid lane. It's something that gets banned away from them in game number 1. They early rotate. They acknowledge that they will take that lane no matter what happens. And if they push in against Team WE, who showed how slow they want to play, then you just take the turret. And you go from that turret to the next lane, swap lanes, take the turret in the top lane. And that's a very simple recipe for RNG to have an early game lead against WE, which stylistically should give them the victory.
And here's the thing about that, because it wasn't just the bottom lane, it was the mid lane as well. I mean, week 1, we knew the Azir versus Zoe matchup to be Azir pushes in Zoe, and Zoe can't do much about that because she pushes through the wave. But it's a minion dematerializer Zoe versus an Azir that's never going to have the opportunity to do that. So it was just that every cannon wave, Zoe had the pressure, and she's going to be able to push in. There's not a lot of opportunities for WE because of their composition to have push early.
And unlocked Zoe to do just this. Time and time again, getting constant sleepy trouble bubbles and paddle stars to lock down crucial members of the team.
And honestly, it's upsetting to watch most of the time with the amount of work that Xiaohu's able to do, because he actually hits all of them. And in crucial team fights, he still hits all of his skill shots. Immediately, Xie gone from the start of this one. And then the rest of the team's able to work around him. And that's the thing in this game, you know, the team fights are happening right now, but this was the straw that broke the camel's back in the end. They didn't even need to team fight. That fight happened because Xiaohu chunked them all out, and they ran from Dragon to Baron because they were too low to stop them.
Yep, and I feel like the first step, which was the drafting, allowed them to have the vision control, and the vision control allowed for Xiaohu to just be able to get the snipes like that. So he was playing phenomenally, but it was the team's strategy, the stream's play around their vision control that allowed him to thrive.
But he was still the one that picked up MVP in game number 2. Not only was he able to pick up and get MVP for the Orianna performance, does so as well. The Zoe and RNG pick up the victory off his back.
43% of his team's damage is a poke mage, essentially, in there. And like the poke, it's not always going to connect to Zoe. You're hitting them and you're missing them. And the idea is you hit one, and then you're able to change the tide of a fight by preventing the fight from happening. Well, he was everything. He was the team fight. He didn't need to have one because he was hitting everybody.
Yeah. And it felt like, honestly, of course, a lot of audiences, or at least just a lot of applause in the background, that they were trying very hard to upset that mid lane. They were going for the ganks mid lane frequently onto Xiaohu, but Xiaohu was able to survive off of one of them, and he made it very difficult off the rest. So he was very strong defensively in that lane when WE were trying to fight back.
He certainly was. He was able to pick up 2 MVP performances in the 2 games that RNG played today, and we actually have Clement Chu standing by with him for an interview.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and with me right here is the double MVP Xiaohu from RNG. Xiaohu, 你可以跟大家打声招呼吗？
Hello， 大家好，我是 RNG 的中单小虎。
And the first question I have to ask you, because this has been something of a secret pick for you, the Zoe. How fun was it to play on that Zoe in that game too? 就你刚刚玩的那一盘的话，你最后玩这个左翼到底玩的有多痛快？
就大概像就是比如我拿了一把狙击枪，然后再按出一直瞄着对面，就很爽。
Xiaohu's answer is like, it's kind of like holding a sniper rifle and waiting in the dark and taking pot shots at people. That's how fun it was. Okay, I have to move on because in this series, we've seen you hold on to the last pick and counterpick Xie both times. Now, Xie has had a much higher profile this season in terms of his individual performance. Was that a strategy going into the series to have you hold on to that counterpick and try to neutralize him in lane? 我想问你的第二个问题就是说，因为你这个系列连续2场都是红边最后一选，然后来 counter Xie。那我们也知道Xie这一季其实他的个人表现呼声其实非常非常高的，这算是不是一个教练给你们的一个战术，让你去 counter 他呢？
也没有特别战术，我们红色方就是经常喜欢选一些比较奇怪的东西吧，就不管哪个位置可能都会有出现 counter 的情况吧。然后今天就刚好给我就是2个 counter 位，然后我也就发挥还可以吧。
Okay. Xiaohu's answer is that, well, on the red side, we like to pick a lot of strange things. It really wasn't about me specifically. We just wanted to throw a counter out there. And this time, this series around, I put out a good performance. My next big question for you is that this split, Karsa has played more games over MLXG, but for this series, he played both times. Can you explain kind of the difference between playing with Karsa and playing with MLXG? 你可以跟我们稍微解释一下，就是你自己跟 Karsa 在搭配的时候，跟香郭老师在搭配的时候，这个感觉差在哪里吗？
香郭的话，可能就是比较自己想法多一点嘛，然后入侵性强一点，然后卡塔的话就是一个乖小孩，就比较听我的话。
Okay, so Xiaohu's answer is that MLXG, he usually has his own thoughts and he's very aggressive. He likes to go on his own adventures. But for Karsa, he's more of a good boy and he listens to what I tell him to do. So my final question for you is that, of course, you're looking at a series against Snake next. Do you have any thoughts on the series and how are you guys going to pull out a victory there? 就最后一个问题的话，你们接下来要去 对战的是这个蛇队。那你们打他们这个系列，你有什么样的一个想法？那你们要怎么样取胜？
就是从我中单来看的话，我觉得打 FLICKR 就是不会比打 WE 压力大吧。所以说，不过我们要全力准备这次比赛，就是争取能比较完美的赢下来吧。
你这个意思是说郭可能没有西叶？
就是因为W 的打野就你懂的。
Okay, so Xiaohu's answer is that playing against Snake should, from a mid laner perspective, should not be as hard as playing against WE, but we still need to put out very good performances. I then asked him, are you saying that Xie and Guo there might be a difference there? And Xiaohu's answer was that, well, you know WE's jungle. You understand what I'm talking about. So that will be all for this interview. Back to the analyst desk.
Spicy words from that man, not only towards the spicy hot button, so he just called Casa a good boy and criticized Magic all in one interview.
This guy's an anti-jungler in all regards.
As a true mid laner should be. Let me tell you, I remember back in the days when Raptors were mine and junglers took them away from us. Raz, it's tough times now.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. This guy, he's going to get it. This VOD is going to go out there. People are going to see this.
Well, I know now that he's going to go back and play solo queue and do the Raz special, which is never give the mid laner blue buff ever again. He's going to take that from. He's just going to take that one as well now.
I just win the game.
Except for Casa. Casa's a good boy. He gives blue buff over towards Xiaohu. But we just heard from the double MVP there. RNG now advanced into the next round as well. What are we looking towards as their top lane jungle synergy? Because Xiaohu spoke of the differences between their junglers, but we know that moving internationally, they can only bring one substitute with them, so eventually they have to find a solid roster.
Yeah, I think that Zatai has generally, of course, he has the stronger experience between him and Let Me. Also has wealth in terms of pool, and if there's a new meta, he picks it up very quickly. So currently, I'm siding beside Zatai if that's the case, and MLXG versus Karsa has different styles, so I can see them bringing the junglers along.
There's a chance that you would take both junglers because they are so different in style, and then you would just choose the better top laner on the day and you may take them across. However, I personally said that my favorite roster from RNG is Let Me with Karsa playing, because I think that Let Me is a more stable type of player in the top lane, where I feel like Zatai has definitely got higher highs. He's still a little bit inconsistent, again, relearning the role for like the 4th time, how many times he's swapped positions. And I just think that Let Me, the consistency is more needed from him.
Well, before we move on here, final thoughts about Team W, because it's the end of their spring season. They will not be moving into MSI. We will not be seeing them at Rift Rivals. Next time we'll see them play will be during the summer split. We heard from Frostgren at the end of game number 2 saying that WE is an organization that pick out their players and it's more of a family team. They work together to try to build up new players and they don't necessarily replace them just off a whim. Are we going to expect Magic Celestial to stick around, and what can we expect from them from summer season?
I would say very likely unless if circumstances change, because the spring split circumstances changed for them. They were expecting to bring in their core lineup from Worlds, and it didn't happen for them. So a lot of it is just going to be rookie building. Magic showcased that he can get better as the split went on, and the same case for Celestial. I actually thought that Celestial played well for himself throughout the split. So for the summer split, it comes down to continuing to practice, get the grind on, find yourself back into playoffs, and hopefully make the grind once more. Hopefully getting to the finals.
Yeah, I think the WE should take away from this split and just be happy that they made the playoffs. Right? They had to get rid of Condi, and I do hope that Condi comes back. I do hope that Ben comes back. But if they continue with the same roster that they have right now, they should be happy that they managed to make top 4 in their conference and continue that momentum forwards and just have a better summer split. Aim to make Worlds.
Now for RNG, they are going to be moving on into the quarterfinals of playoffs. That does not secure them a spot at MSI just yet, and it also crucially doesn't secure them a spot at Rift Rivals either. They still have to win one best of 5 to get their first international representation.
Yeah, one thing I would like to say is that going up against Snake, RNG in this set showcased that they can team fight. Snake is a team fighting team. Snake right now are in a rut. They're having problems, especially in the early game, because they can't really take down those turrets really early on. And unless if SOFM has the early game advantage, or at least the tempo for himself, they falter. So right now, I feel like RNG have the heads up on.
That's the thing, though. I feel like, from what I hope Karsa plays. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to put it out simply because the way that MLXG played today, you don't do that to SOFM. If he sees you come at him and you get like one of the Raptors, he's following you to your Raptors and he's taking them away, and then he's just winning the whole map. So there's just, you have to play more cerebrally with more respect in the jungle role. And I don't think MLXG can do that, or I think RNG will lose if they start him.
There were definitely a few mistakes made by MLXG. This series was just not punished at all. Going up against SOFM, you can't do that.
No, you certainly cannot. And it'll be the first time that we actually see Snake leave the Snake Pit. Moving here moving here to the Superman Mall, the LPL Battle Arena,
Oh.
to go up against RNG as well. We'll have to see if that affects them in any way. That is going to be played on April 14th to 15th, so this Saturday as well as Sunday. But we still have one more game to go during round 1, which is going to be BLG taking on Jingdong Gaming. That's the match we have tomorrow.
And we came into today saying that RNG should be the heavy favorites. We all predicted RNG to win. Tomorrow, I do think, is a fairly reminiscent affair to what today was, with BLG being the favorites coming into that one, being the rightful 3rd seed, you would say, in the battle of the 3rd and 4th seeds.
Yep.
And I would expect a strong showing from BLG, but Jingdong are the wild cards. They could bring anything, and they could bring a storm.
Yeah, that's always the big point, is the fact that Jingdong coming up with the Jinx, Loken coming out at the end of the split and showcasing that they can play around him. That's phenomenal. That's fantastic. But BLG can end it early with the Chieftain and Mole combination.
I mean, BLG have been looking good recently. With the Chieftain Mole being added to the team, they not only have early game now, but they still can rely on their late game, especially with Amazing J. He was an MVP nominee for this split. He's had a fantastic split. If we are going to look towards JDG upsetting BLG and picking up the victory in this series, who do we look towards on their team to do so?
For Jingdong to upset, I feel like, you know what, I would say the mid lane has to do something special in this case. I know that someone has to step up, right?
Yes, they do.
And I can't name a particular person besides Loken that is stepping up currently. I think jungle mid maybe, but I would say mid lane specifically just has to be there on the day.
I would say it has to be Zoom for me, just because going up against Amazing J showcased that he's going to be playing more tanks frequently. So if Zoom could showcase that he can either have a stronger impact in the team fights and zone out the back line, or if he just play split push and at least keep Amazing J down, lock down the shot caller, you have your chance
He's
at the
solo
series.
kill god.
There we go.
Well, thank you for your input and your time, gentlemen, but that's it for the show today. Reminder, that match is going to be on at 5 o'clock Shanghai time, BLG taking on JDG on this stream right here. But that's all from us here tonight. We'll see you guys tomorrow.